Përshëndetje motra.
Music in the Art and Trime podcast.
I'm Leonarda.
I'm Lejla. Welcome home. I've been thinking about lately a lot about getting old and like aging.
Yes.
But not like in a bad way, because I'm not scared of getting old. Like I literally feel like I'm in the prime of my life at the age of 35, right? Living my best life.
Yeah, you are.
But there's something about getting older. Like, say like 10 years ago, I used to feel invincible. I used to be like, nothing can touch me. And I think a lot of young people feel like that, right?
Yeah.
Nothing can touch me. I'm completely invincible. Even if I get sick, like it just passes after like 12 hours. You can go out drinking and your hangover lasts like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now, in your mid-30s, you have like 2 glasses of champagne, you're done for 3 days.
Literally.
But like, I was thinking about how for women like us, especially like ethnic minority women who just they're not afforded the kind of the space to grow old gracefully or just to grow, to mature gracefully.
They're not.
There's always like a deadline on everything we do as women.
Yeah. And then when they have their kids, they've grown up, they've moved out or they've gotten married, whatever the case is. And now the woman and her husband live, by themselves.
Yeah.
She has that opportunity now to just learn about herself, and she feels really old. So she hasn't had the opportunity like me and you, thankfully, have that we grow older, we grow wiser.
Like you grow into yourself.
Yeah.
Like I can genuinely say that from my own personal experience. Like my 30s have been the best years of my life.
I'm claiming that energy for myself.
I've loved my 30s so much. The last 5 years have been chef's kiss.
Oh, I love that.
I know, I've loved it. Like if I look back at 10 years ago, yes, I might have felt like invincible and I'm never going to die. And now I guess all of a sudden I'm hit with like my own mortality. Like people around me get sick. And I'm not just talking about like flus and colds and things like that. But more, I guess, like long-term chronic illnesses or terminal illnesses like cancer. And you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, it kind of hits you, the reality of you actually aging and getting older hits, because you're like, hang on, no, actually I'm not 25 anymore.
Yeah.
I need to look after myself completely differently to how I used to.
Yeah.
Or didn't used to look after yourself at all. Do you know what I mean? Like you took everything, you take your health for granted, you take like your mental health for granted. And then you get to your mid-30s and you're like, fuck. Maybe I do need to look after myself a little bit better physically and emotionally.
You get to that point and you're like,
yeah.
Thank you so much for keeping my heart beating.
And honor, like, I don't know how many people in general, but in particular women, actually get the chance to sit down and honor themselves like that. To thank themselves, like to thank them, their minds, their bodies, to be like, wow, thank you for bringing me this far.
I don't think a lot.
No, and also, when do you have the chance to? You don't have time. You've got kids.
When do you have the chance to? And
you got a husband, you got family, you got a whole household.
Exactly. And I think it also ties into the beauty standards.
Oh my God, yeah.
Beauty standards. It also ties into just how we're brought up as well. So, I've got PCOS now, but before PCOS, I used to be a gym junkie. And I still loved the gym, but my whole point now is to not normalize, but bring my hormones to a normal state, which I have done, thankfully, alhamdulillah. Like I'm getting there. That's my main focus. Before PCOS, my main focus was to be skinny, to fit this narrative that I was always taught that you will only be loved and liked if you are skinny.
Yeah.
Like genuinely skinny.
Which is also reinforced in our comments all the time. Yeah. Mostly by men. In fact, I'd say all by men.
To be honest with you, I don't give a shit.
I know.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't know what they think we're doing at home. Like, oh no.
Yeah, like
he called me this word. I'm gonna cry. Yeah. No, we don't care.
My husband's been with me for 10 years. He loves my curves. And for all the women that have curves, you know why he loves them. So
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because before we even started recording the podcast and we kind of were talking about certain things, and I said to you, growing up as an Albanian girl, I never saw plus size women celebrated, accepted, loved, adored on TV or anything like that. If anything, if there were plus size women on TV, it was always comical.
Yeah.
And they were always made fun of.
Yeah, like Big Mama.
They were never celebrated.
Yeah.
And obviously, along with the remarks you hear from the community at home and whatever about, you know, maybe when I was a kid, I'm just going to talk about myself. When I was a kid, I would say like I was normal. Like I wasn't chubby. I wasn't like overweight or anything. But because I wasn't stick thin, like even at the age of like 9 or 10, those standards were already put on me.
Yeah, same.
From such a young age.
Yeah. And it's so scary. I mean, I was a fat baby, but I was a fat baby because my mum overfed me so much. She was alone. She didn't know how to raise a baby. She was just all by herself.
And there was no one like helping, no one
to help her. So she would feed me, breastfeed me, and I, you know, a child can only do so much. So I was a really big baby. And then I was a bigger child, not to the point where I was obese, but I was just more like a healthier child. And then when I became into teenager and adult, I was not fat. I look back at my photos and I'm like, I don't know why in God's good earth did I put so much stress on myself when I was just normal. I was skinny. By my standards, I was really skinny. And then PCOS hit and I did become bigger and bigger and bigger. But now I'm at the point which I will say this now, we're going to events, we're meeting people, I'm getting dressed up for the first time in my life and I'm just comfortable. Do you know what I mean?
I love that. I love to hear that.
Like,
yeah.
It's just, like
celebrating yourself.
Yeah, just celebrate. Like at the UCAP Foundation, huge shout out to you.
Oh my God, it was amazing. We had the best time.
Huge shout out.
Yeah, well done to them. They put on such a good event.
Amazing. I walked in and I just felt
like a queen.
Well, I know I'm a queen.
Yeah, fact. Own it. Remember what I said to you after? Own it.
I know. But I just felt so good about myself. I don't think I have ever felt like that in my entire life. I can honestly say to you, I don't think I've ever felt like that in my entire life.
Wow.
When I got engaged, I was so self-conscious of my body.
You were I've seen your pictures, like when you met your husband, you're tiny.
I was so fucking tiny.
It makes me so sad when I think of things like that, like what we do to ourselves as women, when we look at like, or constantly it's like, I'm fat, I need to lose weight. I still have that mentality now.
Same.
Like it's something that I'm desperately trying to change and break for myself.
Same. I'm always like, oh, if I can only be like that, then I'll look like that. But I know in my head, if I achieve that, I know I'm still going to be like, oh, you know, I'll still keep going and keep, like, there needs to be a stop somewhere. There genuinely needs to be a stop somewhere. And this is what Albanian women fight with, because you were constantly picked on. You know, I was constantly picked on until my siblings had to be like, no, like, you need to stop. You've been calling Leo fat from day one. Like, you've never stopped it. The funny thing is no one has ever commented on my face, my facial features, and I'm not gonna lie, my facial features bang. So I know that's why.
Listen, up until now, I told Leo the other day, like, you're too humble.
I know.
You're too humble.
I know.
Let's move from humbleness into owning it. You're a queen. We're about to become insufferable and everyone can choke.
Inshallah, plus. Could comment on everything else because there's a bit of chub here, bit of chub there. And even though with PCOS they do it even more now, and then I've just resorted and being the bad bitch I am and just comment on them. Yeah. You're bold. You're losing your hair.
The thing is, it's like this constant need to police women, to police their bodies, to police the way they talk, to police the way they look, to police who they date. It's constant, to police even their education. Yeah. Because even with education, if women choose a certain path, and it's not like a lawyer, doctor, engineer, like something like that, it's like, oh, why are you going to school? Do you know what I mean? It always has to be a certain standard that's been set by, I don't know who set the standard, but apparently there's this like thing that we all need to follow as women, right? And we're always constantly being policed, constantly.
It's because men, I attribute to men, because this is how I think of it. A man thinks of himself, not all men, but a man in the Albanian community thinks of himself as an overachiever. He can do so much. And when a woman tries to do something, because they see them as so little, they can't do X, Y, and Z, and their whole value is to cook, clean, and have children, that unless you become a doctor and a civil engineer, a lawyer, whatever it is that you see on TV being represented, then you can't become like a makeup artist. Makeup artist, like, you know, makeup artists make bare money.
Yeah, they make a lot of money, especially in today's,
Or like being a nail technician, or being like,
it's just like, instead of like, I get frustrated because why are we constantly policing what women are doing instead of actually celebrating them and celebrating the accolades? And like, why are we not saying, wow, well done for everything you've achieved, well done for the success you've achieved? No matter, it doesn't matter. It's not your business what path they chose in life. If they're happy, safe and stable, what is that constant need to put them down and police them?
Control. It's just control, because control instills fear, and fear keeps people in line, and that's it.
Absolutely.
Genuinely, that's it. There is no other reason. There is no empowerment of women. There is no like, oh, I want my daughter, my wife to be the best of the best. No. It's I want to give this much lenience on this leash, but I want to be able to pull back.
Yeah.
That's it. As hard as it is to hear it, that's genuinely it.
I don't know, it just makes me really sad.
I know, it makes me so sad.
Yeah, it makes me so sad.
I was thinking yesterday, I was in bed actually, and I was preparing myself for the episode for today, and I was really going through a lot of emotions. I was in tears. Like I don't know what's going on with me. Just
going through changes.
Going through changes.
These are growing pains.
I know.
These are all growing pains. So much is changing because of the podcast.
Yeah, so much. And I was going to say that this week has been the best and the hardest of this last 4 months. I felt it's felt so claustrophobic this week. And it's probably just because, you know, we're finally breaking into what we've always dreamed of, which is having Trime even more recognized and going to events a bit more. And, you know, like, you would never expect the ambassador of Albania just to literally send you a message on LinkedIn. Like, these are the things that I think I've just had to process. And maybe it might sound a bit too privileged, but it's just...
It's not privileged at all, though.
Humble.
It's not privileged at all.
While I was thinking about this whole thing yesterday, I was also thinking about the relationships that I had and that have completely changed.
Wow, yeah.
And it's because of how I am now.
Yeah. This is why I would tell women all the time, you cannot put this outside of yourself. Yeah. No one can validate you like you can validate yourself. Exactly. And to put that outside of yourself takes power away from who you are. Yeah. Takes your own autonomy away. Yeah. It's no one, it's you.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe you're right. And with those relationships changing and with the mentalities changing, I'm also finding myself a whole different person. And I'm also finding myself as not giving anyone control. But I've been able to do that because I live in a safe environment and no one is there expecting anything from me. But it's just sad that a lot of women probably get to this point and they can't do it.
They can't, yeah. Maybe they feel trapped, stuck, and there's nothing. There's always a way out. There always is. And that always needs to be made really, really clear. There is always a way out. But it's not easy.
No. It's not easy.
And sometimes it quite literally is, especially for women in our community, life-threatening.
Yeah.
It's a matter of life or death, and we recognise that.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons, well, the biggest reasons why we sit here week after week, weathering a whole storm. Yeah. A whole storm to get into the podcast.
Literally.
Is because of that. Is because we know and we recognise that there are so many women out there who listen to podcasts that actually feel like they don't have that route to safety.
Exactly.
And this might be their only solace for now.
Exactly. And they feel like what we are saying is validated what they're feeling. And sometimes, you know, the harsh truth sometimes is you've married a person, you've loved them, you've come to this realization that you're a whole different person, and now you look back at that person and you're like, we're not compatible because this is how I think now. And that's the hardest thing for a woman to go through.
Well, changes are hard. Changes are really hard because to put yourself first is actually the hardest thing to do. To put yourself first means having to make really difficult decisions it means having to cut certain relationships, certain people from your life because they no longer suit your lifestyle anymore. They no longer suit who you're growing into. And the people who love and respect you, and this is like, I tell myself this all the time, the people who love and respect you, they will be there, and they'll be there to celebrate, and they'll be there to cry with you, and they'll be there to laugh with you, and they will respect you. They'll respect your choices. All they want is for your happiness and to be safe, right?
Exactly.
And those who wish different, it's your choice whether you still want them in your life or not.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing I always say to any woman I meet. You always have choice. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you do, but you absolutely do.
And your future self will always thank you.
Yeah.
Because the people that you probably feel like you don't have that same relationship are always generally the older generation.
Yeah.
They're gonna die.
Well,
And
it's
you're
not just,
still
the
gonna
thing
be
is,
alive.
it's change and evolution, especially as a woman, is painful. It means having to put down your own boundaries, and it means having to distance yourself from people who cause you maybe some distress in some way, somehow.
Yeah.
Now, that's not easy for women in our community.
No.
When we've been taught to people please our whole life.
Yeah.
And so it feels like holding down boundaries and, you know, kind of removing yourself from certain situations and removing certain people in your life feels really hard. And you're like, you know what, it'd just be easier if I just went along with it.
Just olekrut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that make you happy though?
Exactly.
When you did that before, did it make you happy? No.
No, of course not.
It doesn't make you happy.
No. It just makes
It might be hard and uncomfortable to go through a change and evolution, but on the other side of that is a beautiful version of yourself.
Exactly.
You're becoming the best version of yourself. You can either stay stuck in a miserable life state, or you can have that period that's really hard, really uncomfortable, but on the other side of that is beautiful growth and evolution. The choice is yours.
Exactly. Yeah, because you can either be the shell of a person for the rest of your life and just, you know, live your life like that, or you can be the best version of yourself. And that's what I've learned, I think, the most this week is I want to be the best version of myself. And to be the best version of myself, I just need to own who I am. And the person I am is unapologetic, bad bitch,
And
confident.
that's why you're loved. Like, that's why people love you when they tune into the podcast. That's why they love you. Like, they gain so much strength from the way that you know, the way that you speak, the way that you hold yourself. Like, that's why that all those things, I guess, that we're taught to like hide away from as young girls and women are actually sometimes the things that we're loved for the most by other people.
Yeah, because we've got the confidence, the gozim, to just be ourselves.
I get a lot of messages from women who are or have been or are coming out of very similar situations that I've been in, Albanian women.
Yeah.
And it's always, how did you deal with it? Like, you know, like, how do you deal with it now? And I'm like, I don't have anything to deal with right now. That's the difference. My life changed because I had to put myself in really difficult situations, and they were dangerous for me. I'm never going to take away from that, and I'm never going to make it sound like it was easy for anyone else who is going through something that's similar to what I've been through. But the fact of the matter is, I knew I deserved better.
Yeah.
I knew I deserved more, and I knew that there was a better life waiting for me elsewhere.
Exactly.
And so for all of those life states that I have been like down in the dumps thinking, why am I here? It'd be better if I was just, you know, like, 'cause I've been there. I've had those thoughts about myself.
Yeah.
But some way, somehow, I always knew that there was more at some point. I didn't know what more was. I had no idea. I just knew that I deserved more and I deserved better. And I followed that. I didn't know that more would mean leaving my ex-husband and turning to social media and sharing my stories and, you know, starting this podcast and doing all of this amazing work that we've been doing. I didn't know that that's what more was. I just followed the fact that I knew there was more.
Yeah.
And I knew that I deserved better.
And you're the person that you are now because of it.
Yeah.
And that's probably why people are messaging you, because they see you now, but you were them where they are now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time we, as Albanian women, hold this like fantasy of what a family life is, especially like that we want our parents to feel proud of us and, you know, love us unconditionally through everything. And the reality is it's not like that for a lot of us. A lot of us aren't going to get that pride from our parents. A lot of us aren't going to get that unconditional love, not going to get that understanding, that celebration of who we are. And I accepted that.
Yeah.
I accepted that that wasn't going to be me. And so I knew I just had to follow my own path and make those choices for myself and stop trying to people please anyone else.
Yeah.
Because it was making me miserable. It makes me miserable. You're depressed, living in anxiety, living in panic, constantly trying to people please everyone, living in like this, oh my God, no one likes me. Like, oh, let me not say this. Let me not say that. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't care anymore. I simply don't care.
Isn't it sad though? Isn't it so sad? It's so sad. In our community, the women have there are such high expectations put on the girls, whereas whether it's a daughter or a wife, that are the same expectations are not put on a boy or a man or whoever, on the male. That females, we're constantly trying to overachieve, constantly trying to tick all the boxes of mum and dad, tick all the boxes for your father-in-law, mother-in-law, tick all the boxes for your own husband, tick all the boxes in the community, that at the end of the day, actually those boxes don't mean jack shit.
Do you even want it?
Well, you don't, because...
No, this is actually a genuine question to everyone who's listening to this right now. Do you even want what you've been told that you need to do? Do you even want it for yourself?
Let us know. Genuinely, let us know.
Yeah. Have you even stopped to ask yourself that question?
Yeah.
Do I even want this?
Yeah. Do you want to be a slave? Well, I say slave, but do you want...
I wouldn't necessarily use the word slave. I think it's more about a sense of kind of adhering to all of these expectations, to what the community wants of you. Do you want that of yourself?
Yeah.
Is that the life you want?
Yeah. Is that your true calling?
Yeah. And if you authentically feel like that is what you want from life, do what makes you happy. As long as you're safe. Be happy, safe and stable. That's what I tell women all the time.
Exactly.
And I think there's this big misconception, and what we're doing here is like teaching women to don't get married, don't this. I don't care. Do what you want as long as you're happy and safe and stable.
That's all that matters to us.
But really, truly, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, is this what I want?
Exactly. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, I don't want to have kids, or I do want to have kids. I don't want to be a housewife, or I do want to be a housewife. Have you ever, like you said, have you actually stopped, looked back on your life, looked back on yourself and said, hold on a minute, this is never going to work for me.
And also, I look back like on my teenage years. I get like as children and teenagers, we don't have much control over our lives. So it's a bit different. The way that I reflect about my childhood and teenagehood is, I can't reflect the same ways about my adulthood. I look back at my 20s and I hate my 20s. I hate every single minute of my 20s. I love my 30s though.
Because you're happy.
Exactly. Because I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I can look back in the last 5 years and be like, wow, the growth, the way my life has changed is chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. I love it. And I was even actually saying to Dan today, I was like, if this isn't even the peak of my happiness yet, imagine what's to come.
Exactly.
Imagine what's still yet to come.
Exactly. Without shadow of doubt, I can say that until Trime came along, I was lost. Once Trime came along, I finally found my own space. I know exactly who I am, and I can feel just comfortable with who I am. The minute I walk into this podcast studio, into this room, I'm just like...
I feel like you can breathe.
Like, I'm just like, this is me, you know?
Like most of my life, I've never felt like I fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted Trime so badly to be a thing. Because if I felt like that, there's no way that I was alone in feeling that. There must have been, I used to think like there has to be other women out there that feel the same, that maybe have been through the similar situations and experiences. I never expected it would be like over 10,000 women in the space of 4 months. I definitely didn't expect that.
No, definitely.
100%. Again, like even when I started like Lejla, Please Tell My Story, I remember thinking like, oh, if it's just one woman, it's enough. Now, I don't think if it's just one woman. Now I think I need every single woman who has felt like me, who feels like you, to hear this.
Exactly.
Now it's not enough for it just to be one woman.
No.
It needs to be all women that hear this and that this connects with.
There's safe spaces.
Yeah.
There's spaces where women can actually go. There's no judgment. They can hear. They can communicate with other women. And we saw that. We saw that on Saturday. We saw that on Saturday. We
see it every single time we meet women who listen to the podcast.
Yeah, and we're always like flabbergasted because, you know, we're surprised. I don't know why we're surprised, but
I'll be honest, after last week meeting everyone at UCAP, I feel like everything's changed.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the whole Trime, I think how we feel about Trime, how me and you, even our body language is more like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here with a hammer. Like, I'm here and I'm here to stay. I feel like we're more confident.
I just love it. I just love everything that we do for Trime. I love everything about the podcast. I love everything that we've, you know, the future. I've never felt more motivated and inspired to do something and to be a part of something.
Same. And I feel so privileged to meet all those amazing women because each one was inspirational in their own right, even though some of them were like, we didn't know how to approach you, but they're just so inspirational.
Well, yeah, because like we get in the studio like almost every single week. Sometimes we come and record for hours on end, and because we're behind like our phones and, you know, behind TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of that, so when we do meet people in real life and they are like, I love the podcast, like, thank you so much, you're like, oh yeah, people actually do listen. Because we just do it like, this is just, we just get here and we just talk. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, no, people actually do listen. I forget. Sometimes I forget.
I know. I forget. And I was actually saying this to my dad. He's so cute, bless his heart. He was showing me a video of a woman that had studied in Italy for politics and science politics. And she went back to Albania to work in politics, but they wouldn't allow her in.
Right.
So she had to work in a farm, in her village. And she went in to the whole parliament and she was making a whole speech. And that's how we connect. Me and my dad, that's how we kind of like bond. But I was saying to my dad, I was like, we've reached over 3 million people.
Nearly over 4 million actually at this point,
Over 4 million people in the last 4 months.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, those are 4 million actual human beings that you probably could never see the start to the end if you were in the street. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, it's mind blowing.
And you know, it's just mind blowing. And I think the biggest compliment that we got that night, which I personally feel was when the women were like, I feel like I know you, and I feel like you know me too. And it's just the biggest compliment because I think me and you we're speaking to each other and we're bonding, and you know, me and you we're best friends. Like we can speak hours on.
Literally,
we're
like we need a meeting. Like we literally book in our meetings
for the day,
and we talk business like 5 minutes, and the rest of the 2 hours is just like.
Genuinely, it's just like
we solve all our business problems in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was the biggest compliment that I took out from that night, was the fact that a lot of women, and it wasn't just one, it was a lot, that just said, I feel like I know you so well, and I feel like you know me as well. And it just goes to show that what we're speaking about touches a lot of women.
That's it, isn't it? The reality of the podcast is that it's so much bigger than us. We've said that from the beginning. Like, it's so much bigger than me and you.
Yeah.
And they actually is real women. Like with real lives, like listening to this every week.
Yeah. And it's women with actual careers, you know?
Well, it's women, do you know what? It's not just women with careers. I know. It's like, it's women with all completely different lifestyles. Yeah. It's women who have careers. It's women who are really high up in their careers. It's women who are stay-at-home mums. It's women who maybe, you know, it's so many different types of women. That it's young women who are at university. It's women, it's young girls as young as like 16, 17 who are listening to us.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's now become a thing where so many different women and girls from different lifestyle, Albanian women and girls from different lifestyles tuning in and listening. And that is mind-blowing to me.
It's mind-blowing. And I think the nicest thing is when we get messages or comments that I sat down with my mum and we watched it together.
Oh my God. Do you know what? You just reminded me. I'm going to read this message that we got. And I have to, because this message absolutely finished me off. So we got a message on Sunday and I was already like so overwhelmed and overstimulated by Saturday night. So we got this message on Sunday and it said, I just wanted to say that what you do is amazing. I'm so happy to see Albanian women that have exactly the same mentality as me, and I agree with everything. So thanks. It feels amazing to be understood like this, especially when most people in my surroundings don't agree with me. I also wanted to say that my grandma was the first female teacher in Kosovo, and I translate the podcast to her, and it's amazing to see how she agrees and understands it so well. It transcends generations. Keep going. Thank you.
Big up to your grandma.
Just a moment for what she says in that message.
Yeah. It's amazing.
The fact that this podcast and this space is going through generations. And when I got that, I was just like, oh my God. And I think it made me emotional because of the relationship I had with my grandma as well. Yeah. And how much I adored my grandma and how much my grandma was a role model to me. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, this is so sweet. Thank you. I gave like the most unprofessional response to her. I was like, thank you so much. But that's how I felt.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I can't hide how I feel.
I know.
I can't hide how I feel.
No, but it's good though. Why should we hide?
That's it, isn't it? And I think back to, like, for example, growing up in the 90s, especially like during the war and post-war and as diaspora and asylum seekers and refugees and all of that, about how many times maybe my mum or my aunts needed a space to talk to other people in the community safely.
Yeah.
Without fear of being judged and without fear of being blamed. And they never had that anywhere.
Never.
They didn't have that.
Never.
And I needed an essence of that in Trime.
Yeah.
I needed to bring that into Trime because I always have that in the back of my mind. That for all of our mums and all of our grandmas and all of our fathers and teasers, that they didn't have that.
Yeah.
But it's now here.
Exactly.
You know, like I want them to see this change is happening.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't happen when they were our age.
Yeah.
It is happening now.
Yeah. I think when you grow up in the diaspora and you don't grow up with constantly your grandma around you, it makes you appreciate them so much more. So this is just, it's just an amazing... I wish my grandma was alive so I could actually sit down with her and, watch it with her and show her and tell her what it means, because she was a boss bitch. Like, she was that type of person. But my mum had her sisters where they just, all in a group chat from morning till evening and non-stop. Chabone motor, queen motor, well, I'm motor chat, like constantly. And you hear so much through that conversation, and you do hear all of the things that they talk about, and they cry together.
Yeah,
laugh together.
And that's it. Yeah.
And what makes me sad is the fact that they don't actually have a space that they can all go. No one has young kids anymore. Everyone has grown kids. They don't have an actual house or just a space for just the multra. They don't. And a lot of women don't. They don't just, they don't have something.
And this is when everyone always says, like, why don't you get men on the podcast as guests? Why?
Yeah.
Every single space you go into has men.
Exactly.
Women deserve their own space that's exclusively for them and only solely centers them.
Yeah. Because everywhere there is a woman, there's always going to be a man. Everywhere. There has never been any space, whether it's a domestic violence charity, whatever it is, there's always a man's opinion somewhere that has made some sort of decision.
Yeah. And when people say, like, oh, it's a bit extreme not having men on the podcast, why is it extreme?
It's not extreme.
Why is it extreme?
Like, wake up. What about Oda Burav?
Thank you for bringing that up. Men can literally go anywhere in the world and be safe.
Literally.
Women can't.
Literally. No, genuinely. Like in Kosovo, so when me and my husband were just engaged, in Kosovo, he used to go to a dessert place to just get like some coffee and some trileche. Me being me, and I'm like, well, I want to come. He's like, yeah, but you create bora. And I was like, I don't care. Do you think I care? So I was the only woman there eating my trileche at table. I will come and invade your space. Who made you the king of this space?
Yeah, quite literally.
No one.
Why is it that oh, vishper bora?
Yeah. Like, oda bora vanog banktu so vishper bora.
No one bats an eyelid.
No one.
No one bats an eyelid. But then when we have female only spaces, all of a sudden it's why are there no men there?
Yeah, literally.
Oh my God, leave us alone, please.
Literally.
Let us have this. Yeah, this tiny corner in the internet. Leave us alone.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there's... So I've had this statement being thrown around in our community so much. It's off. Grad kan chef me folshum. O grad nuk mundesh me marr seriozisht. O grad niçin par ftyri kan. O grad kështu. And because of that, they don't take anything seriously said in any ord. Like, I've never interfered in Ord Borav because they've never allowed me. But where I've been surrounded by men in my family and I've said something, it's never actually been taken seriously. And it only gets taken seriously when I'm with my husband. Because they feel like this debt towards my husband for not disrespecting me.
Again, it's not actually respecting you. It's the fact that they feel like they don't want to disrespect him.
Yeah,
which is so disrespectful in itself. Like,
and it's purely because they see me as his property.
Yeah, it's an extension of him. Yeah.
And, you know, my husband, he hates that. He hates it. My husband doesn't give a shit about anyone in a room. He just doesn't. If someone disrespects me, he does actually get up.
Yeah.
And he will say, ease them, bye. And he'll never go back. Like, you know, he's very, very particular. He does not allow my own family to disrespect me, let alone someone else. So when you've got a man like that, you're very confident in yourself. And you can be very confident in any space. But in our community, as a woman, if you're trying to bond with your dad, bond with your uncles, you are instantly reminded that you are an opposite sex, you are weaker. Women are not weak, but you are weaker. You've got a whole different set of rules and regulations, terms and conditions that a woman has to abide by, which is stay in the kitchen with the other women, help everyone put chai for the bora, and, you know, make some whatever dessert and stuff, and don't really get involved in men. Yeah.
This was about women.
Yeah.
This was about giving them a safe space. It is absolutely okay to have a space that is solely centered and focused exclusively on the women in our community.
Exactly.
And we are unapologetic with Trime when it comes to that. That will never, unwavering, that won't be changing.
Literally. It just won't be changing. It won't be changing. We would be hypocrites, number one. Number two, we would be doing a disservice to all the women that suffer and that go through so much pain, whether that's physical, mental, emotional pain every single day because of men. So that's why we don't center men in Trime.
Because even if you notice, even this conversation now turns and becomes about men.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so bored. It's so boring. It's so boring because it's the same conversation over and over and over and over. It's nothing progressive.
No.
None of it is progressive.
No.
It's just rehashing the same thing.
No, exactly. And, you know, I think we should be having bigger conversations.
Yeah.
Like, for example, how fucking embarrassing it is to see reports come out of the United Nations in 2024. And if you say that to someone, they'll be like, yeah, but it happens everywhere. Do you realise how old Kosovo is? Do you realise how, you know, how patriotic we are shitom veten? So patriotic. Chatshon patriotic to do me mood krejt grad. When I get pissed, when I get angry and passionate, it's fully Albanian. But How turn the tables. Let's talk about this report. Let's talk about this statistic. How do you feel? Yeah, but it doesn't happen in my family. It doesn't.
I can't help but like the frustration when those comments come in me is because why are you trying to take away from what's actually happening? Why are you trying to take away from the reality of the situation? And so even then when we talk about it, what we do is we're diverting the conversation away from the real issues.
It's because they're either enablers or perpetrators,
or just bystanders.
Yeah.
And if you are a silent bystander, just know that you are complicit in it as well.
Exactly. And because they're either one of those three, if they do talk about it, then they have to own up to their own actions and they have to reflect on themselves. And they don't want to reflect on themselves.
Bingo.
Because then it's admitting that I'm a shitty person and I've done this crime.
And I need to change.
But I don't want to change because my life is easy.
It's comfortable.
It's easy. It's easy. Like I have everything handed onto me. I've got all the privileges of the world. I never have to worry about, because obviously inheritance and everything always goes to the boys. I don't never have to worry about inheritance. I don't have to worry about getting my clothes washed. I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about this. The only thing I have to worry about is go out and work and bring money. It's 2020 fucking 4. Women work. Women pay the bills. It's not hard to work. Don't get this fantasy, and I'm not saying this to you, but don't get this fantasy in your head that, oh, I work so hard, I'm on the 12th fucking floor.
It's like, join the queue. Everyone does. Everyone works hard. That's nothing new. Everyone has to now. It's cost of living. Everyone has to work hard.
Everyone works
It's nothing
hard.
special.
Everyone.
There's nothing special in doing all that work. Everybody has to do that now. Everyone has to live. It's extortionate. The cost of living is extortionate. Everyone has to do that. Let's just forget that. It's a dead argument.
Exactly.
It's a completely dead argument. I just really just want to stay focused on the mission of Trime, which is discussing not just our personal lives, but actually also how the issues in our community impact and affect women. We need a solution.
Yeah.
We need to progress now from just acknowledging that these are issues to now actually working towards a solution.
Yeah.
How can we make this better? How can everyone listening to this make the world a safer place for the women in our community? How can we make our community a safer space for Albanian women? Because rehashing these same conversations over and over is boring and there's no progression in it, and it does not keep women safe.
Yeah.
It does nothing to help women.
Of course. And this is, we start by joining hands. We start by actually connecting with the right people. We start by opening up, the non-profit. We start by doing all these things and we make the change happen. And we never, ever give up.
And I think, going back to what I was saying at the beginning about the age thing, there's no way I could have done something like this 10 years ago. The confidence I have now as a 35-year-old, the messages that I get, like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? Yeah, that came from hell.
Yeah.
I had to go through hell to get to this level, to this point in my life.
Yeah.
And the same way you're saying, like, I'm going through this transformation, this evolution. That's what it takes.
Yeah. It does. It takes a lot of tears.
It takes a lot of growing, and not just mentally and emotionally, but actually biologically as well. Because wisdom comes from actually growing older.
Yeah, experience.
It comes from experiences. When you're 25, you can't say you're a wise person. You haven't had enough experiences in your life to have that wisdom.
No.
Sorry to say that, but you actually have to live through life to become wise. And when, like, we're only 30 and 35, we've got our whole lives ahead of us. So even the wisdom we have today is nothing compared to what it's going to be in 10 years, 20 years, when we're 50, 60, 70. It's going to be completely different. Even in when we're 50, we're going to be giving a different kind of advice to women.
Exactly.
Because we would have experienced more, and then we are in a different stage of life. So then we can talk to women different. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. So even now, sitting on the podcast at our young, tender ages, even the wisdom we have right now means it's nothing compared to what we're going to gain from the older we get.
Yeah. But I think the wisdom that we do have is so, I'm going to toot my own horn here, our own horns, but it's so valid. It's so important for women to hear on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Because our main focus is women and women's safety and women's progression and potential.
But also it's so that other women know that they can trust in themselves and their own decision making and their own, you know, mind state, their own mentality, their own wisdom, their own maturity, that they don't constantly need to be seeking to make decisions outside of themselves, that the choices and decisions they're making are because it's what they want and not because it's what they're being told they want and told what to do.
Exactly.